Do you think that the sequestration of CO2 is hurting the market? We see things in the US such as 45Q, the tax credit. It was a big talking point here on gasworld webinars. But are tax credits, tax incentives such as this, are they actually a bad thing for the market?
Yeah. For the CO2, for the liquid CO2 market, it represents competition in essence for the raw CO2. So, although I don't want to say that sequestration is a bad thing, for the CO2 users, it represents another risk. And we've been talking about this for years and years of, when we first started talking about CCS, I don't know, 7, 10 years ago, we talked about the risk that it poses because in essence, it competes for the pure large sources of raw CO2. So yeah, I think it is a bad thing for the CO2 merchant market. And what, in 45Q, although there is there's also a payment in 45Q for utilization as well as sequestration and a little lower level, but it does incent sequestration at a higher level. So when it comes down to it, if the market can't pay more than say what the carbon credits are worth for putting it underground, it'll go underground for those companies that have the option to go either way. And so I think what it will do is it'll set the base price for the market going forward in many regions. If you look at the U.S., it's very interesting because it's quite different from Europe in that the U.S. is very receptive to underground storage onshore of CO2. And so you see these small projects developing all over in the U.S. anywhere they have a reservoir that they can capture and store CO2 in. Whereas in Europe, that's not quite the case. I don't follow it that closely, but I believe in France, it's kind of banned for underground onshore. I know in Holland here, we had a project going back in 2013, 14 that was onshore that got completely, shelved. And any projects we're looking at right now are all offshore and not onshore. So, I know in Eastern Europe, there's a little bit of more of a mix, but I think that the need to put carbon underground to get it out of our atmosphere will continue to drive CCS activity. And it will continue to drive incentives, and they could even get bigger, depending on how the rest of our carbon abatement efforts work. And that is going to put what I see as, in many regions, a floor on the price of CO2 for users that are CCU, so carbon capture and utilization, where they use it and then it goes back into the air, like beverage carbonation and those sort of applications. So. Summary answer is yes, it's bad for our industry, but I want to do that with a caveat that I don't think CCS is a bad thing. It's necessary evil.